Well guys, it's still raining, but I can't stand it. I gotta do something. I'm gonna put a log on the bunk. No cutting, my wife said. I said I'll just put the log on. She said, no you won't. You'll keep going. You'll do the next step and the next step. I said, no I won't. Chain. thing is bent. See when the center of the tree's off to the side like this one is? That's when you want to get to the center of mass to set the tree up, or else you're not going to get any wood out of it. This is going to be a good one. Not good in the lumber, but good in practice for chasing after bent logs. Some power steering fluid in the reservoir. that thing is something, that one. Let me get some statistics on this. $13 by $15. It's 8'3". One, two and a half. It's got a 2.5 inch kink in it there. Now it doesn't matter really where you start with this. Whether you cut it with the kink out that way, out this way, or even up or down, it doesn't really matter much, just so it's not on an angle to the bunk. You don't want that kink to be turned like this, because that won't give you what you're looking for. You'll never get boards out of that too well. But the way it is here now, my wife's going to kill me if I start sawing. See, the center of the tree, at this end, the tree is 16 inches wide. Yeah, in both directions. The pith, though, is 5 inches off one edge, 5 inches off another edge, so that's not in the center of the tree. So if we shoot for the center of the tree for the center of the cant, we're going to lose everything, because 2.5 inches in gives you nothing. So what we want to do is go for the center of mass instead. So what that is 16 and 16, so it would be 8 and 8. So 8 and 8 puts us about 4 inches away from the pit. Off the bunk, I'm looking at 9 inches off the bunk to the center of the mass. So here, 15 inches, just about touching the bunk. Seven and a half puts me 9 inches off the bunk there. So actually, the way that log is sitting, right there is about the center of mass of the log itself, and that's what I want. I don't want to go to the pith. The pith is right here on this log, which this is the center. Down at that end, it's, oh, I'll show it to you, it's way off. This is where you don't want to go to the pith. You see it there? That log is 16 inches wide. The center of the pith is at 11 inches. That's just too much wood to lose. So I put the pith here, which is 8 inches over and 8 inches down, right in here, right in that spot where the end of the tape is. That's where you want to consider the center of the tree. Looks like this tree had a little bit of shake possibly in it. I don't remember where this one came from. I don't know if this was a branch. Couldn't have been a branch. No, this is actually the cut. So this is the stump end of one of the smaller pine trees. Okay. So did you get how I figured that? In other words, the pith is way over here. I'm not going for the pith. With a log this crooked, I'm going for the center of mass. And I'll pull a tape along there just to show you how crooked that log really is. Let me back up there. That's straight. You can see what I got. Lot there to play with. I have to figure out. With the tree, with me shooting for the center of mass, it doesn't matter which way you turn this. As long as you're heading to the center of mass, that's the most amount of wood you can get off this. It doesn't matter which way you turn it. So that's what I'm shooting for. Man, I really want to cut that. It's not raining. Oh guys, it started raining again, so that's a sign for me not to cut this. So I'm not going to cut it. Just remember what I said. On a tree this crooked, you're going to go to the center of the mass. And that'll give you the biggest cant that you can get out of it. Because you have a bend there. If you move over this way, you lose because of the bend. If you move over that way, you lose the ends because of the bend. So the best thing to do is to find the center of the wood. Imagine that line going straight through the center of the tree and go from there. Let me just pull a tape down through the center there. Now if you look at that tape, you can see what I'm saying there about, you know, what you would lose. This is actually over this way a little bit. Right here is where I figure the center of mass is. What I'm getting at here is you lose this much here, but you lose the same amount over here because of this bend. So if you go to the center, if you pull it this way, you lose here. If you go out that way, you lose at the ends. So the best thing to do is find the center of the mass. In other words, forget about the tree. Find the center of this circle. Forgetting about these, whatever you see, forget about it. And the center of this circle is right about here. And that's what I want to hit. Do the same thing at this end. Now, if the pith just so happens to be in the center, this pith is in the center this direction, it's in center, but it's not this way, it's too high. And because the log is bent the way it is, I'm going to be keeping the pith high, but at the same time, I'm going to cut, you know, as big a bulk of piece of wood out of here as I can. I hope I explained that good, but that's why I'm doing that. Sometimes it's, you know, nature's not, nature likes to throw some curves at us. This is one of them. Now tomorrow's Good Friday, and we sort of celebrate that day in a different way than most, but the point is I probably won't be able to cut. Well, maybe I can cut in the morning, but I can't cut in the afternoon. So I'm going to check this out and see what happens here. This is going to be an interesting one. Just want you to get a good view of this. You can see it's resting pretty nice on them two of them, and then it's off here, and it's definitely off at this end. You know, I'd rather cut these crooked logs than I would the straight ones. The crooked ones like this are like a challenge to try and get the biggest piece of wood out of it you can. The big ones that are over there, they're not a challenge for getting wood. What they're a challenge for is to make sure you cut the right thing out of it that you could get out of it. Usually the biggest pieces, but not always. You know what, guys, I was walking away from excuse me, I was walking away from this. If you look at the bottom of this log, that's pretty nice and straight right there, sort of. It's only about 1.5 inches at the one end. So this end of this log here is sort of sweeping up at the end. Even the bottom of it seems to, where this end is over here, even that seems to be fairly flat. It doesn't matter though, because we have the side, we have it twisted. The twist is facing me, plus facing the other direction, the opposite way. When you look at the log like this, and this is why I'm making these videos like this, I'm hoping that you guys can get an idea of which way to turn it. It's hard for me to explain in words, and there's no standard way of telling you, but when you have a really bent log like that, if you head for the center of mass, you'll end up with the biggest thing you can get out of it. So it's not always the center of the cant. That's something that needs to be understood. Or I mean, it's not always the center or the pith of the tree that you use as a guideline. Sometimes it's just the center of the mass of the ends. Okay? The center of that alleged circle that's there. Interesting.